Hey, next we were going to do a training, and Mike Kaine has generously offered his time to lead us through some screen sharing for getting into DACdb, how to do an easy story, so that you can help do this for your clubs, and those who are AGs or future AGs can help the clubs do this for themselves. So, Mike, we're going to give you screen sharing privileges and let you take it away.
Great. Well, thanks. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share. One of the things that I like to say up front for, especially for folks that are new to marketing or new to the role of public image, and that is, what is the goal that you're trying to achieve? And that is to communicate the passion that you feel for Rotary. And through experience, we've learned that a lot of clubs will tell that story in statistics, dollars and cents, and people's names. And the result of that is people aren't very interested in that. What they're interested in is your passion, and they're interested in what the outcome is intended or has been from your efforts. And so when you're creating your easy stories, try and put it in the perspective of a story, a narrative that will inspire, inform, and motivate service above self through Rotary. Just a little bit of that up front before we get into the mechanics of how you do it. So we've heard a couple of folks mention that the burden of where this information comes from to allow the story to be created has to come from the club itself and not from the person that carries the label of public image chair. Public image chairs are like the captain of a ship. They don't actually steer the ship. They don't actually work the radio. They don't actually tie the lines. They rely on their crew to do that. And your crew is your club. And in particular, it's the committee chairs of your club or members of the committees that have the responsibility of creating the content. So whether it's about a fundraiser or whether it's about a special meeting or whether it's about a grant, whatever it is, the appropriate committee should be taking the charge on how that story evolves. And then the other thing I'll say for another time is that AI, many of you may have mixed feelings about AI, but in terms of generative AI for storytelling, it's a great tool. And the kind of cut and dry, cut and paste kind of stories that you're likely to receive from those committees, when put into AI the right way, can come up with very dynamic and inspiring language that can be used in your easy story. So having done my little prelude here, I'm going to take you into DACdb. And I heard some angst, at least from Mike, that getting into DACdb may be challenging. And so you start out by going to DACdb.com and you enter as part of your user ID, the actual email address that's in your personal profile on DACdb. Now, if you haven't touched DACdb, that was extracted from what's on file at RI. So you start with that. And then, if you don't know your password, go to forgot password or reset password, and you'll get an email back to the address that you put in here that will give you a new password. So in my case, I'm just going to fill that in and log in. Oh my gosh, look at all this complexity. This is really tough. All you need to worry about is my club. So going into my club, you'll see these little tiles that will tell you all the things that you have been authorized to do. Now, because I'm a past club leader and an AG, I've got a lot of tiles. As a member, you're going to have fewer tiles, but the one you're going to concentrate on is Club EZ Story. And you can see I've done a few of them. And I'm going to take one of the EZ stories that I wrote recently and use that as the example. Now, the big question that may be in the back of your mind is, we don't use DACdb. We're using Club Runner, or we just use RI to do our back end, and nobody's doing anything with a club management system. And the reason you want to use DACdb for EZ stories is very simple. The district has standardized on DACdb as the conduit for information between your club and the district. From a PI, from a public image perspective, the way you get your stories published to all of the members in the district is through EZ Story. So if you don't do anything else with DACdb as a public image chair or participant, EZ Story is what you're here for. So let's take a recent EZ Story that I did to publicize a very special speaker that we were fortunate to have in a recent eClub meeting. We do our meetings asynchronously. We pre-record our speakers with a select group of members and then incorporate that into a web page which lives for a week as our club meeting. And we wanted everybody in the district to have the opportunity to share the wonderful talks that Guy Kawasaki, who is a marketing legend in Silicon Valley, shared with our club.
He's a great
And
speaker.
he's funny, he's on point, he can be merciless in his criticism of how people do things wrong. And this one was, if you think the rules of business, think again. And it's got some really great information. I encourage you to go into our archive and take a look at it. But this is the way, what you're seeing right now is the finished e-story as it presented in the club bulletin and it presented in the district EZ Story sharing section, which I'm forgetting the name of. I don't know if Herb's still on there, but we'll get back to that. So how did this happen? The way it happened, if we go back to EZ Story, and I want to go back to what happened. There we go. One more. I'm going to go into the editor. And when you start the editor, you'll come on to the first tab, which is called Information. So be sure that when you see this page, it'll be totally blank when you start a new one. Make sure you're in the first tab, which is Information. You're going to give the story a name. More importantly, you're going to give the story a headline. So this is your 20 words or less opportunity to get people's attention. So the headline should represent the main purpose of what you're trying to communicate. You'll start out as a draft. Now, a lot of people have fear when they start to do this. If I click the wrong button and it goes out there, it's not finished, or it's got a mistake in it. I don't want anybody to see this yet, so make sure that you're staying in draft mode. You're going to do, one of the nice features of EZ Story is they can be time limited. You know, one of the taboos of public image is to have stale or outdated information in the venues that you're advertising. And so we want to be sure that if this is a 1 week duration, because this is only about a 1 week meeting. If it's an event that's coming up in 2 months, you want to be sure to have an end date 2 months out so that EZ Story can automatically purge the public view of the story. They don't go away, you still have the archive, but the public view of it will disappear from whatever channels you're using on the expiration date. For those of you that are using DACdb to create your website, and I don't know that there are that many of you yet, but for those that do, the next section is pertinent where you show the story in your website, your homepage, your dashboard, your easy bulletin, your e-meeting. So if you check those and you have those proper add-ons in your subscription, this will auto-populate. It makes life very easy if you're trying to publish in multiple places. But let's go back to the draft and then the date limiting. And then the next section is the main story image. This is one picture that headlines the picture. You saw from that first example I showed you, Guy Kawasaki's picture was up front. This is how it got there. I said choose file. It gave me an open file dialog on my computer. I was able to point to where I had the picture and it will automatically publish. One little tip, it will only publish JPEG or PNGs. It will not publish PDFs. So if your picture exists as a PDF, you must convert it. If you're on a Mac, just open it in preview and export it back out as a PNG. If you're on a PC, I'm not sure how you do it, but you can certainly use Photoshop or one of the image tools to do it. But the idea would be you would convert the PDF to an image file. Okay. Next. Is everybody seeing this okay? Okay.
Yep.
The next section is enable comments, so that if it's on your website and you've enabled blogging, people can comment on it. If you're not using the website, it doesn't matter. The next section is pertinent for everyone, and that would be the story date and the byline. The story date would be published with the story, and the byline, you're going to see how we do that, is a drop-down for your club. So you don't have to do much typing here. You just say, okay. So if the membership committee was publishing the story and your membership committee person is going to be the byline, you would just look for their name in the list and click it. If you're using the web module, and again, this is another caveat, only the web module allows the automatic posting in social media. The district, I believe, has this turned on. So if you say Facebook and LinkedIn and any of the other social media channels that you're using, this story would become eligible for posting in that on the approval of whoever's managing those vehicles. And that's how you do the setup. You do that first. The next part is the part that will become more familiar to you, which is the editing of the story itself. So every easy story is in two parts. The part that is the most important that will appear at the top, and it's usually more limited in space, and then the complete description or story. So if you have a lot of detail and a lot of other information to distribute, you would put that into the second section. And what would happen is this is your elevator speech. This is that 50 words or less, 100 words or less, that gives the reader a reason to want to see more. And on the publication at the bottom, it will actually insert a link that says see more. I'll go back to that so you can see it. So it's a very conventional editor at this point, not as comprehensive as some that you may be using, but it's got all the key pieces. Let me address one in particular, which is putting in a picture. So you've got the one picture, which is a story picture, which was done on the other side. But within the body of your story, you can add additional pictures. And it uses this type of editor in which you can browse at the club level, at the district level, and any personal pictures that you might have added. So at the club level, these are things that you've used in other, if you've used this before, other stories. Like if you've got pictures, one suggestion I make is that your people that are contributing in the club, make sure that their pictures are already stored in this place. And then if you need a picture of Jane Doe, you can pick it up here. If you don't have that picture, you can upload it here and go to your pictures. And let's see if I can do this easily. I'm going to go to and let's say I'm going to do a Rotary logo just for grins. It adds it, and then I can just click on it and insert it into my story. So let's do that as an example. Now, that's pretty big for what I want to use, so I can reduce it. The normal size that I make things is 320. Keep it locked here, and it will actually do it based. So if you decide your width, it will keep the length in proportion. If you want to put a border around it, you can do say a 2-pixel border, and I can put space around it. I can say 5 pixels and not worry about alignment. Now I can put that there. Now, let's say I want to center this. I'm going to put the cursor in front. Just click on it, and this is where you do your centering. So in this case, it's limiting me to what I can do. And if that picture is too big, I can make this smaller by going 120. And now I have a nice size picture for this. And you notice it's doing the wraps and all this stuff for me automatically. The next section I want to draw your attention to is linking. If you want to put live links in, and so many of you put stories out that have a link to a place where you can get more information, or if you can sign up or whatever you're doing. To do that, you can add a link here, and I can say, click here. And maybe for the URL, I want to put rotary.org. And I can say, OK. And now I have a link. And if I want to center that link, I can center it. The easy way is if I'm doing Guy Kawasaki like this one, I think I hit that wrong. Let's see if I go to, there we go. It's pointing to Guy Kawasaki's website. So I can either type in the display text and make it original here, or I can basically use an existing text in my story as the text to highlight and then give it the URL that I'm going to point to. Okay, the other things have to do with how the text looks, whether it's big or small, whether it's going to be a serifed or non-serifed font style. These are pre-canned styles. You don't have the ability to do your own custom ones without doing some back-end stuff, but these are the ones that are provided. And you can decide what size that text is going to be as well. You can do tables. You can change the color of text. So if I wanted to change this to, say, green, I can do that. From a style point of view, I don't suggest you overdo this stuff, but it's there if you need it. And you can do the background as well for highlighting. You can do numbered lists. You can do bulleted lists. You can indent, bold, italic, underline, strike through, subscript, superscript. So you've got the basic editing tools that you need to make it look nice. Okay. All right. So when you're all done with that, you can save it. I'm not going to. I want to go back at this point to. I don't want to mess it up, but I'll take you to the next step. Okay. After the content, you have save, which would allow you to save it and come back to it later. If you say save and continue, it takes you back into the editing mode. All right. So when you're all done with your story, go back to information. Go through, if your club requires an approval process, you would go through the review and the approve process, and you would be able to name the people that are in that chain and so forth. But once you're ready to publish, you would click the publish button. Now, the next step is the most critical. You've done your story. Everybody that needs to approve it has approved it. And you're ready to share this story now with the world. And in particular, you're willing to share this story with the district. The mechanism to do that is to click the share button. And you have an option to copy or move. My urgent recommendation is copy. Do not move. If you move, you lose control of your story. So that if you need to do any updating or changing down the road, you won't be able to. So always copy. When you copy your story, and by save, that will create the action. It goes to the staff at the district, who then put it into their review process, and then they have a workflow that puts it into the biweekly posting of all the easy stories in the district bulletin that Herc puts out on a biweekly basis. And it also makes it available. If you go into the homepage, this is a new feature in the district website called District and Club Spotlight Reel. And here are the stories. So I published this easy story this week. So it's in the Spotlight Reel for this week called Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley Explores the Future of Work, Learning, and Global Living. There's many stories here from other clubs. Your club should be in there next week. So whatever story you got, anyone in the district now can find it outside of that biweekly posting, because things have to be timely, especially if it's a timely story. So make sure you use it that way. All right. When you're all done and you're ready to go, you just say publish and save, and every member of your club will be able to see this easy story. So there's obviously a lot of stuff that I've just given you and a lot of complexity. I don't know if we have time for questions. I took a lot of time, but I'm certainly available. It's Rotary Mike at theKaineFamily.org. And you can find me in the EZ Story directory or in the DACdb directory. And I'm more than happy to work with you on a one-to-one basis on a story that you may be contemplating to try and get you through your first one the right way. But if you have any questions for me now, I'm happy to answer.
I wouldn't. So when you say everybody in your club, anybody in your club that's on DACdb or that's access.
Everybody is on DACdb.
No, I know,
Everybody
but-
in your club is on DACdb.
No, I understand that, but
Right. So the
most
trick
people
here,
don't know that.
the trick here is for the PI committee to make the members aware of what the resources are to see these stories, right? So if depending on how your club format works, but at the weekly meeting or in your newsletter or on your webpage, make sure that the club is aware that everyone has a DACdb account, that they can log in, they can click on EZ Story, they can see the EZ Stories that have been published for the club, and also make them aware of the district Spotlight Reel button on the district homepage. And if you're using DACdb to create your club bulletin, it will auto-populate. It'll actually
Right.
go in there.
Thank you, Mike. There was one question in the chat from Emmy, and then I'll go to Camilla and then Mike. But Emmy asked, she had a question about others commenting on the video. Is the PI team able to preview or approve any comment before it's published if you make your stories public, I think is your question.
Yes, you can. So the moderator can decide how they want to handle that.
Great. And then Michael Jackson had a question in the chat. Can you copy and paste the text from, say, a program like Word?
Yes, but be aware that your hyperlinks may not be active. So in that situation, let me go back real quick if I can. So there was one more button to talk about. If you're in story content, let's say you pasted this in and you want to make this a hyperlink. Let's say Word had it as a hyperlink and it, oops, sorry. So in the story, if it's hyperlinked, but it's not active, you just go into the plus, and here you would put just reactivate the
That's
link.
helpful.
And now it's an active link.
Great. Thank you. And then I see Camilla has her hand up.
Okay.
Is Mike or is someone going to make this demonstration at Pets coming up? Pre-Pets or Pets?
I don't know.
Okay.
Pre-Pels on
I'm sorry.
February
Pre-Pels?
7th, maybe?
Yeah. Because what I would really recommend is I have a club runner club and I have a fabulous club. I have an amazing club, but they're not putting this on DACdb. So maybe if a club is using Club Runner, designate someone who's willing to go fetch the stuff and put it on DACdb. So I do that for my club because the PI person is great and he does our website and he does everything, but I'm not going to do one more thing. And so the thing is, you need to designate someone else that will say, okay, you're creating all this great content. I will plug it and play. And that is very important because there are people who will do it one time, but they're not going to do it a second time. So just designate as a second job for someone else to do that. That's just
Right.
what
right.
I would recommend. And also when you go to Pets or if there's training, that's a really important part.
Yeah. And I would also add to the point that was made earlier, can you cut and paste? And the answer is yes, you can. So if the story is being created in Club Runner, you can just copy that and then paste it into DACdb. But I also agree with your point that it takes a village to make it work, right?
That's a great point. Thanks,
Yeah.
Camilla. And this meeting is actually being recorded. So the demo was recorded too. So maybe we make an easy story out of this with a link to the training.
Ooh,
So the
there you
district
go.
can see it.
Awesome.
But then again, you've got to get people to go to DACdb to see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too editorial, but I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Club Runner user myself. I create two websites for two different clubs using Club Runner, run the back end and the whole thing. But the EZ Story function is something that I see as striving to find a tool that people who are not particularly technical can wrap their arms around and get done quickly and efficiently. Whether it's cut and paste, whether it's original stuff, whatever it is, it's 4 or 5 distinct checkoffs and then hit a button and the district has it. So it's good for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it
welcome.
greatly. This was so helpful. Yeah, thanks a
Awesome.
million.
Thank you.